What's up guys, Pidget here. This is my take on the newly added support gem Minion Pact. I think this is one of the strongest support gem in the game so far that got added. So what is this support gem doing? It will sacrifice a random nearby damageable minion on cast to gain added physical damage equal to the sacrifice minion life. That percentage is 2.8% at level 3. So now if you calculating with my perfect mix sec numbers, it has almost 1 million HP, so we getting 22k added physical damage from a single support gem, and we were starting scaling extra damage on top of this, and penetration on that, and also explosion on the top of this, and area to get even more explosion, even more coverage, and even more damage because we choose Chieftain. On the first look it would not look that strong because it's just one single time and you getting the buff for one single hit, right? Well, this is why we using Blade Vortex. Blade Vortex will snapshot the damage number that you getting from your Spectre. So if you keeping up your stacks on your Blade Vortex, you will getting every single time till it falls off to 0. So that's why you see me very often recasting the Blade Vortex in the video, because this is how I can just keep up this extra damage mod and just get like 50 million-ish DPS easily by running around without, you know, curses and so on. So it's kinda insane. This is why literally every single boss just melts, even on juiced tier 16.5 maps with 152% more monster life on top of the elemental resistance. So that's why it's literally just melts everything. We're using the perfect meat sack, I mentioned that one, because this has a 1.7 more life multiplier, which is almost the highest one in the Spectres, but this is very easily accessible for everyone, so like 7 chaos. So basically if you have the support gem and the meat sack, you have almost infinite damage, simple as that. And we're scaling the meat sack HP with the skill tree, with Empower, and also new companion support gem as well, that is granting us 60 or 70% more monster life on top of that. So that's why it's almost reaching 1 million HP, which is very nice. Although there is a much more, how can I say, attention friendly version, you can use the Dark Marionette as well, because the Dark Marionette will just revive itself every 4 seconds. So if you did not pay attention and fold off your Blade Vortex stacks, you can just literally recast it and get the benefits once again. But honestly, the perfect meat sack version, in my opinion, is 5 better, because you need to just keep up your stacks. Simple as that. So this is like just playing any other build, because you will need to use very often your attack or spell abilities, right? If the stacks falls off, you can just literally leave the map via portal, come back to the map, and your meat sack will wait there for you as alive, because they changed how this mechanic is works. So no longer you losing your Spectres like that, so you can just literally leave the map, come back, and press again your Blade Vortex and keep up the stacks, and just pay attention now to the stacks, so you are not losing out the extra damage. Also, as you can see here, I have 2 shrine buff effect. So I'm using the resonating shrine and the refraining shrine. Now the resonating shrine will grant you a power, frenzy, and endurance charge on hit and on kill. So basically this build runs around 7 endurance charges, 4 power charges, and 4 frenzy charge at the same time by just killing everything or just hitting something. So that's why I choose this belt. And also the other thing is, guys, this combination is kinda cheap. And also I choose the refraining shrine so I can just use the righteous fire in the build, which is will grants us even more spell damage, 42% more spell damage. So that is a huge multiplier for a very cheap price. This bed was around like 6 divine, by the way, when I was making the build. Maybe it will be now much cheaper, because more people, you know, flooding the market with the bed. So honestly, this is, I think, the best combination for this version. Of course, it would be the Oscillating Shrine or the Explody Shrine, of course, but come on, guys, they very expensive. Or the Crit Shine even would be very nice, but honestly, this is a much budget-friendly setup, which is, by the way, talking about budget, so I put together this beard for like 50 or 60 divine-ish budget, and I self-crafted majority of my items. Now let's talk about the scaling, guys. So as you can see here, we have almost 14k HP, and the reason for it, because we stacking HP. We stacking HP so we can use the Rotive Globe Shield. Every 100 player maximum life via grants us 5% spell damage, which is a very huge amount of spell damage increase. And on top of that, we using the Enmity Embrace. This is why I choose Chieftain, because we can just stack fire resistance, and we will getting capped very easily, as you can see here. So right now this ring gives me like 30% more damage, because how much penetration is currently gives, and because we using the Volako Storm Embrace, all of the maximum fire resistance also applies to maximum cold and lightning resistance. So that's why I have 85 maximum resistances without basically anything, because I just using one single purity of elements, purity of fire and purity of elements combo, and basically I have a very nice overcapped resistances, and also that will give us tankiness at the same time. We added a Defiance of Destiny for the beard, because Defiance of Destiny is such a nice amulet, and also kind of cheap as well. This was free divine, so basically this is how I can survive very easily while I just, you know, doing very juice content and not die to it. I just died one single time when the map had very high crit chance and crit multi, but after that I quickly swapped to Soul of Solaris, so take no extra damage from critical strike if you have taken a critical strike recently. So basically we crit immune as well, so we can just ignore all of the nasty extra crit damage modifiers. And also we're using the Apostate, because Apostate will convert all of the energy shield to maximum life from the items, so this is how we can have that high maximum life. And the other thing is, guys, very important to scale your Spectre life. So I'm once again, guys, this is a budget setup, so I can literally squeeze in 40% more damage with just swapping better support gems. So currently I'm using a level 3 Empower here and a level 3 Companionship support, because this gives us 60% more maximum life if this is the only minion around us. So this is a very nice, and this could be a level 4, such as like the Empower. So once again, I'm missing like 40% of my damage currently, but this is the budget option. So we're using here Empower, Respecter, and Companionship, and Minion Life. I'm using Perfect Meat Sack because this has a very high HP, almost 1 million with the current setup. And you can use the Dark Marionette as well if you want, but this will have less damage, and also honestly, you know what, keeping up your stacks is not that a big of a deal. Talked about the Snapshot, right? So if I press my Blade Vortex, I'm sacrificed my Spectre. You can see here, the Spectre is here, this little ghost thingy that follows us around. So if I swapping zones, he will come back alive, and he will just join us when we doing the map or something like that, right? So, and also if it falls off my stacks, guys, it will I will lose all of the damage multiplier from the Minion Pact. So now I doing without Minion Pact support, but if you doing this, you can just literally zone out, zone in, and you have your Spectre again, and you can use your Blade Vortex, or you can just use the Perfect Dark Marionette, once again automated revive version. And the other reason we choosing Chieftain, guys, because we can use the Hinekro Death Fury. So this will grants us the explosions, which is very nice. Honestly, I think the way they buff this one from 5 to 10% is so much better, although they lower down the extra damage from the explosion, but this is so much more consistent. And you were seeing in the footages how insane was this. And so we using a lot of unique gevers, guys, in this build, and a lot of interactions as well. So honestly, I'm using here Elegant Hubris because this will grants us Minion Life and Minion Life here, and that is a very huge damage multiplier. And I'm using the good old Unnatural Instinct setup with the Light of the Meaning here, so we gaining all of this juicy area effect, increased nodes, skill effect duration, life regen, right, and also physical damage as well, because we gaining a lot of physical damage from this. So, and also I'm using the Light of the Meaning crit version because this build not getting that much crit, so this is gives us like 12% critical strike chance, which is very welcomed. If you comparing, this was 7 chaos, right? So that is a very budget option. And we using here one single brute force solution because this build requires intelligence for the helmet, which is very important. And I'm using here Watcher Eye with +1 maximum elemental resistance via affected purity of elements and damage leashed as life while affected by vitality. This is how I getting life leech into the build. And I'm using 5 passive medium clusters with maximum life and increased effect, and all of this stuff, guys, self-crafted. Okay, it was very easy. In the full build guide I will include how you can make this one as well. Once again, guys, this is not a full build guide. I will link my profile or maybe a very skeleton POB, so you can, guys, just check out. But I would say if you want to play this one, just wait for the whole build guide on next week. I think I will make sure, and I will test this one against Uber bosses. Till then, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video about my Blade Vortex Chieftain. If you have any question, please leave a comment below, or you can find me on twitch.tv/Pidget2. Thanks for watching. I was Pidget. See you next time.